Oh, indeed. We just thought we'd stop off quickly in the Wigs hood and see what's happening. As you can see, one is passed out and hiding, and the other one is sitting up and, well, looking around. But they're getting so big now. Even in the time that I've been here, they have definitely grown a lot. Not just producing feathers, but just size-wise too. They have beefed up and bulked up. It's like they've been hitting the gym a little bit. But I think obviously they grow fast for a reason, because they're very vulnerable on the ground like this, so they need to develop very quickly if they are to survive. So hopefully these little ones will soon be able to get off of the ground. The longer that they're down there, the more chance there is of a potential issue, particularly because the bigger they get, the more they attract attention. The one good thing, though, is the bigger they get, the more they're camouflaging, and so easier then to kind of hide away if a predator does come past. But hopefully they're not going to get themselves into any trouble. We just have to hope that Lalamba and Co don't come past this little nest as they're moving around, because I'm almost certain if they spot these owls, they're going to go after them. I know it's not a huge meal for them, but it's an easy meal, you can imagine. For a leopard, those two little owl chicks, if you're hungry, would be a very simple and easy little snack for a hungry owl. So, for a hungry leopard. So they just hopefully can make it a few more weeks, and then all will be good, and they'll be able to start getting out of the way of those ground-based predators. So nice and calm here, though. I love sitting at this spot. There's something about sitting here where you listen to all the birds that are calling around you. You often have the orange-breasted bushwhacks. There's oxpeckers today. There's been a little 20-flank prinia they're calling. I heard some violet-backed starlings earlier. So it's just like such a nice place to sit in the afternoons. The only one downside is that the light typically hits you in the face here in the afternoon. In the morning, the light is a bit better in terms of viewing the owl nest, but it's really, really beautiful inside here, especially now this afternoon where there's been a little break in the clouds and there's a bit of sun coming through and there's these shadows across the riverbed and dappled light. It makes for a really nice area just to sit quietly and take in the bush. I think sometimes we get so caught up in game drive and moving all the time to try and find things that we forget that simply sitting in a place like this where there's a high concentration of birds, and let's be honest, it's also a good place for a lot of animals too. It's not uncommon for a leopard to be seen walking along through here, or lions to lounge in riverbeds, or the odd elephant to be around. So really worthwhile just sitting and taking in your surroundings and listening out in case something is lurking. In saying that, though, it's been a long time. I actually can't even remember the last time I saw a leopard in this part of the Mulawati. It's quite strange. Rory, so once the chicks are up and mobile and leaving the nest and doing their thing, they're still going to stay in the area for until they're about 4 months old. So they're not going to just get up and go next week. They're going to be here for a while. But once they go and she's no longer looking after them, then the Wigs don't actually spend that much time here. We see them every now and then, but they kind of just leave it until next breeding season. And then next breeding season they come and they actively clean up everything, make the nest all good again. And obviously through the summer period and the winter, there's all the old feathers, the down gets blown away. And that gets kind of shifted off. So it's just making sure that there isn't too many sticks around and just kind of generally cleaning it up a little bit. And they can then have the next clutch. So, yeah, they don't always, like I said, we don't always see them a lot during the winter months here. It's not to say that we don't see them. Every now and then you catch them kind of taking it easy in this area. But for the most part, they fly around then and just do owl things. It's only really in this sort of summer period where they become very localized around the spot. where we see them almost every day. But they're easy to find. I mean, there's the adult is actually sitting in the tumbuti tree at the moment above. They always are. Normally the male sitting in this particular tumbuti that I can see, and the female normally on the tumbuti tree above the nest. But I don't see her today there, so maybe this is her just sitting a little bit further afield. In terms of actually sexing them, it's very, very difficult. They're very similar size and shape, and if they're not sitting side by side, it's quite tricky. The reason why we know the female sits closer is that's the behavior of spotted eagle owls, is the female typically tries to look after the chicks as much as possible, so she'll sit right there, try to deter any predators that potentially come around. It's interesting to see the feather coloration and the mottled pattern on them. They blend in better than most. And if that owl was right up against that tree and sitting dead still, and we didn't know that there was a nest here and that we must look for them, you could easily overlook that owl. So it makes you think about how many things that you drive past that you haven't even realized they're there. And the same can be said for, leopard and lions and various other animals as well. I'm just trying to think from where we are now as to where I'm going to go. Obviously, like I said, this is just a little update on the owls. We spend a lot of time here, so it's good just every now and then just to pop in and kind of just see how they're doing and then carry on. I don't particularly like sitting here for massive amounts of time, purely because out here, when we sit for long periods, we do attract attention to things. So any little hyena that's walking around on the top there sees the car and it's like, oh, it's down there in the Muluwati, and comes lurking, or some sort of animal sees us. And there's animals have learnt, even leopard to a degree, that stationary cars can mean something. So they'll then kind of come towards that area. So I typically don't like to spend huge amounts of time at this little nest. I like to kind of come in, have a look, little update, and then leave the owls to themselves and let them develop and grow. Joyce USA, no, not in this part of the world, I'm afraid. Burrowing owls of South America, we don't unfortunately see them here, which is quite sad. They're cute little things, very, very cool animals. And I wonder if it's to do with the density of predators here. We've got although I suppose in those areas there's also the same kind of predator profile in terms of, big and small predators. So yeah, it's an interesting question as to why we don't get burrowing owls down here. Maybe there's a reason for it at some point, I'm sure. But yeah, sadly not. Cute little things though. Like I say, enjoy sitting here, but it's very quiet. I haven't heard anything. There's no rumbles of elephants nearby or any sort of indication of something being around. There was, however, quite a few oxpeckers, so maybe on the top here there might be something lurking about, some sort of antelope species or giraffe. We'll go and have a little investigation and just see why the oxpeckers were hanging about this area.